Welcome to episode 64 of NF Show, NF Magazine's official weekly podcast. This episode's called Skell, yeah! And you can credit my wonderful co-host for that title, Evan Campbell.
How's it going, Noah?
It's going good. It's so good to see you again. I missed you last week.
Yeah, we missed you too. Although Lucas filled your shoes and did an awesome job. So we had fun last week and talked about a lot. But it's really good to have my ever lovely co-host back with me.
Yeah, I'm bummed I missed a chance to talk to Lucas, but
I don't know who's avoiding who. The past two times Lucas has been on, you've been away, venturing across the world. So I don't know if Lucas waits. He's like, oh yes, Noah's gone. Now I will join on, or it goes the other way around.
He's allergic to Noah.
Yeah. I must say, though, I'm disappointed that you didn't start the episode 64 like the Nintendo 64 kid. Episode 64!
Yeah, I actually thought about that. I totally thought about that. I always think about that. I've done a number of podcasts that have gotten to episode 64, and I always think of 64. I love that video. It's one of my favorites. And every time I see 64, I don't even think about Nintendo 64, the console, directly. I think of that video of that kid, and I think of it slow-mo where he has demon voice.
Oh, yeah, the edited version or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a good version.
So as it turns out, while there was plenty to talk about while I was gone, now that I'm back, the news has gone quiet and silent. So we just have a few news tidbits that we're going to talk about in the intro. And then Evan and I will share what our latest Nintendo gaming adventures have been. And then we're just going to hop directly to the feedback, which is also a little short. So if this episode seems a little bit more constrained or tidy, that's why. But fret not. What I think of when there's a week like this is that E3 is just around the corner, and that's going to be so much to talk about. And I don't even know when it's going to begin, but there's going to be pre-release stuff. There's going to be companies talking about games before then. And actually, one such company was Activision, who revealed a teaser trailer or a launch trailer for a trailer, not a launch trailer, for the next Call of Duty game, Call of Duty Black Ops 3. And as it turns out, while we were hopeful based on a random inclusion of the Nintendo Network ID on the website connection options, the game was not announced for any Nintendo platforms. It was announced for Xbox One and PlayStation 4 and PC, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it. No previous generation consoles, no 360 or PS3 love, and also no Wii U love. Now, there are those of you who rightly so might be optimistic and hoping, well, maybe they'll play this dance at E3 like they've done in years past. And then all of a sudden, September, we'll hear a surprise like, oh, guess what? It's actually coming to a Nintendo platform. But last year, that didn't happen, unlike years prior. So who knows what will happen this year? But for now, it looks like we are not going to see Call of Duty return to Nintendo's platforms this year until otherwise advised. Are you bummed out or surprised about this, Evan?
I'm bummed, but I'm not surprised by any stretch of the imagination. We didn't get to see Call of Duty Advanced Warfare the previous year, so thinking that they would all of a sudden jump back on board when Wii U sales numbers, while there has been a slight uptick year over year, I mean, the system's not setting any places on fire in regard to sales. And just the fact that, according to Ubisoft, mature games don't sell anyway. So on one hand, it's Treyarch developing. So we talked about that. Treyarch has been the porting house for all of the Call of Duties that came out on Wii. So because they are actually the developer behind this new Call of Duty, there are people thinking that, you know what, maybe they'll do the Wii U version. But right now, that doesn't seem to be the case. And I don't see anything changing on that front. I think it's great that we're getting Guitar Hero Live from Activision, and I'm sure we'll get the next installment of Skylanders, but I'm highly doubtful that we'll actually see Call of Duty Black Ops 3 on the system.
But on positive news, a game that I'm really looking forward to, and yes, I do believe I'm going to get it, Splatoon, coming out at the end of this month. It turns out it's not just going to come out with a little bit of fanfare, having some extra amiibos that are specific to the game, but Best Buy is going to be providing or selling a Splatoon Wii U console bundle. So for $300, you'll get a black Wii U, Nintendo Land, and Splatoon in the box, which is pretty awesome. No amiibo are included, but if you want a mix of something that's kind of carnival fun, like Nintendo Land, and then some really cool, a really weird take on first person shooters from Nintendo that could be super awesome, Best Buy is going to be providing the hookup. And I hope that it sells well. Anything that can get Splatoon out there and it sell well, because I am blindly, fanboyly, if you want to say, I'm just hoping and assuming it's going to be an awesome game. And so therefore I want it to sell lots of copies, just like all of Nintendo's games, especially first party games. If this helps, I'm excited about it. We'll see though, if the game's release moves the needle. It'll be hard to say. We won't really know until at the end of June for monthly sales numbers, unless there's a huge explosive first day sale, since there's only a couple days left in May that the game comes out on. If I remember, there's only a few days that in May that the game will be available.
Yeah, I'm not expecting Splatoon to necessarily give Wii U a massive bump. I would just like to see it establish itself as an IP. I think we just saw that like Mario Party 10 on the system sold like 290,000 copies for March. And it'd be great to see Splatoon as a franchise nobody knows about except for diehards and stuff, and being a shooter game from Nintendo. It'd be great to see it get somewhere between those numbers or around the 250,000 mark for the first month. And then hopefully word of mouth can help spread out sales and get them to continually climb, if it is as good of a game as we all presume. Obviously, that would change if it's not as good as we all think it's going to be. But the bummer here is, and I get it, Nintendo probably is sitting on a stockpile of Wii U consoles still, the black 32 gigabyte ones, and that's why we're not seeing any special editions or anything. But it's a bummer to me that you have Splatoon with just this awesome art style and it's colorful and everything, and you're not getting like even the gamepad, like some splash of paint on the gamepad, or just some crazy, wacky, vibrant color for the Wii U console. It's really a bummer.
Well, if anything, maybe Amiibo will help drive some cross interest. And I have a confession to make. I was able to pre-order the 3-pack of the Splatoon Amiibo, which Evan believes will be readily available. It will be really easy to get Splatoon Amiibo. Only in the 3-pack so far, from what I understand, can you actually get both the boy and the girl and the Squidling Amiibo. So I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why. I just said, oh my gosh, it's available. Okay, I'm going to pre-order it. So I've pre-ordered it, and I'm actually supposed to move to a totally new address. Who knows what that is? I don't know what it's going to be. And the shipment is supposed to come to my current address, which will no longer be my valid address once it finally arrives. So that's my one bit of nervousness, is I've pre-ordered this for whatever reason, and I think I'm going to hold on to it because they're so freaking cool looking, and I'm so
They do
excited.
look cool.
But yeah, so if anything, my Amiibo collection is destined to grow by 3 within the next month and a half, and my Wii U game collection will grow by 1 when I get Splatoon. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Are you going to download Splatoon, or are you going to like? Are you pre-ordering that? Are you going to pick up physical edition, or are you going to wait for reviews?
Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a physical edition because I'm already out of space in my Wii U and I still don't want to commit to buying an external hard drive.
Okay.
So physical it is. And plus, I got into the Best Buy Gamers Club Unlocked program, which means that I'll be able to get it for $12 off retail, brand new, right out the gate. That's a better discount than you can get at GameStop. If you're buying a used game that's a month old, you usually get like $5 off. So yeah, I'm going to go the Best Buy route and get the game there. And who knows, maybe I will leave it in its plastic wrapping before I read all the reviews, but I'm pretty sure that I cannot resist playing that game. I have wanted to play it ever since I watched the Treehouse demos last year, and I will not be denied.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that have made me nervous about it, and I'm probably going to pre-order it or preload it if they have that option for Wii U. but I think it's come out basically that things between single player and multiplayer will be divided. So like costumes you unlock, unless I was misconstruing what I was reading from the interviews,
Mhm.
will be stuck to single player and you'll have to unlock new costumes in multiplayer. Which just
Mm,
seems like a weird, I mean, I guess unless there's some huge stat changes and the ability of people, that kind of um that kind of made me think back and forth. And then I just worry the single player, how that's going to play out. It looks like Mario Galaxy levels is what people are talking about, but I don't know if I necessarily want that type of experience
mhm.
with like a third person shooter or whatever. Um, so I'm going to be really curious because everyone's gotten their hands on the multiplayer, just how that single player comes. Still super psyched. I definitely have concerns as we get closer
Yeah.
and closer.
I'm actually not holding out much hope for the single player, especially after I saw some of the initial videos. I think it's overly flattering or complimentary to say that they are Super Mario Galaxy-esque. To me, they remind me of Super Monkey Ball, where you have just
Hmm.
these really simplistic, basic platforms floating in space and a very simplistic background behind it. And there's just not a lot going on. I'm sure there's more to it than that because Super Monkey Ball is usually a timed little obstacle course, and it seems there's a little bit more complexities to the puzzle platforming challenges, and what I've seen so far Splatoon. But I'm banking all on the multiplayer being awesome, and I just want to splatter everything with paint. But anyways, enough of Splatoon. One other thing that happened during the last week was we did get in North America our first Nintendo Direct presentation that's specific to Xenoblade Chronicles X. If you've been heartily or earnestly following your Nintendo fan site news or pro site news, you may already be aware that Japan got a series of 3 videos in advance of the game launching out there. I'm not sure if that's going to happen out here, but we did get a little bit of new information in terms of localization. What we have once called dolls, which are the giant mech suits that the characters in the game jump into for combat and fast travel. In North America, at least, they are going to now be called skells. Skulls with an E, in other words, which sounds much more daring and dangerous and adventurous than dolls, or at least I think that's what the localization team is hoping. But there have been some people, Evan, you noticed, who weren't too happy about the change.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty common with any localization. People are always like, "Oh, it should be exactly the same as what the Japanese creators thought or whatever," which I think is just a goofy way of looking at it. I didn't have an issue with dolls. I think it would have been cool if it stayed dolls. Skells works for me. It's interesting you went with the skulls. I thought it was just short for skeletons, is how I was looking at it.
Oh, yeah, that's probably more accurate. Uh, yeah, it's like an exoskeleton of
Yeah,
sorts.
that's kind of where I thought they were going with Skull, which I thought was kind of a creative way to interpret it.
Mhm.
Not my way of interpreting it, but the localization name for it. Uh,
You're so awesome, Evan.
I'm cool with Skells. I think I'm really excited about them. They've kind of been showing them off more, and I think they showed in like a Japanese video that you can have customization with them. There's big, medium, and small frames, and they come with different attributes. But I think you were saying, no, that you're a little wary of the dolls and the Skells and what you've learned recently, and it's kind of put you off on Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Oh, you brought that up, didn't
Oh
you?
yeah, I'm not gonna leave that.
So I am one of those people who is really interested in the videos that were coming out in Japan, and I did read through some translations of them from various people and looked at some screens and so forth. And I have no issue. The the mechs never appealed to me to begin with. When I first saw them, I was kind of actually off put by them because I, forever since I was a little kid, I've never really been that big of a fan of jumping into giant robot suits to fight things, and that's definitely a staple in Japanese anime and manga. And I've just always thought I've never usually when I see that, it's just like, not that interested. Neon Genesis Evangelion would be an exception to that. I did like that, and I liked Godanner, but that's about it. Those are the only 2 instances. I didn't get into Robotech or anything else, and so it's like, you're bringing mechs into Xenoblade. It was already cool enough, but now it's got cheesy giant robot suits. But it was like, it's okay. It's Xenoblade. The premise sounds really cool. This is going to be the one that I'm going to really dive into. And being hungry for more information, I was reading through the translations, and it might have been just the nature of reading a translation of an explanation of how the Skells work, but it was just so much. There's so much detail and intricacy for me in terms of all the stats and the customizations that you can do just on the Skells alone, in addition to all of the, I'm sure, super complex relationship management and inventory management and all this other stuff. And when I was younger, I was all about like, all right, every RPG, almost all of them, they always have some kind of new system. I'm going to learn it. And it started out daunting, and then I got over the hump and was like, all right, cool. I've learned it, this one-time system for this one game. But when I look at it now, and I'm an old man with not a lot of time, just like, I don't have time for like micromanagement in a game. And so it actually did kind of put me off seeing how complex it was, because it just, I want something a little bit more streamlined given the amount of time that I have to work with. So now I'm not so much on the Xenoblade train, unfortunately, as it may be, but I'm still looking forward to hearing what everybody else thinks about the game.
I'm wondering if the localization, because I've watched videos on it and I've seen other people talk about the Japanese videos showing it. And basically, it just seemed like you could pick a big, medium, or small Skell. I didn't see anything like micro managing about it, basically, just that each of those have different stats, and being like the small version would have less health but would be faster compared to the bigger one being a brawler. But it didn't seem, I mean, it didn't seem any different to me on a surface level than picking your Mario Kart cart, whether you pick a motorcycle or anything.
No. So here, oh my goodness, the hardcore Xenoblade Chronicles X fans are going to be like, rah! So this, I was not prepared for this conversation. Evan just sprung it on me. So I'm going to have to remember back to whatever it was that I was reacting to 3 weeks ago. It is not fresh in my memory. But as I recall, they can be destroyed unless you upgrade certain stats. There are ways that you can customize them. Yes, in the broad brushstroke sense, Evan, there are 3 different classes, much as in, for instance, Titanfall. There's 3 different classes of Titans. But in that game, that's all there is to it. These are much more complex than Titans and Titanfalls. As far as I understood, you could take care of certain stats of certain parts of the Skell, and then you also had to balance out using different types of fuel in order to power up certain weapons. You had default weapons that would, I think, fire endlessly, but then you have to balance out flying power. And do you put the fuel to the movement, or do you put it to the weapon? And which of those several weapons can you use? And there's all these different weapons that each of them can have. I'm just like, whoa.
Is it overwhelming for you?
It was too much. Yeah.
You talk about the flying in the video for Xenoblade Chronicles X. They show like you hopping in one and then just, I mean, this was in like the first trailer, like flying through the air and stuff. But this one like has you flying just hundreds, if not thousands upon thousands of feet, like above the surface of the planet, which I think they're calling Mira for the North America localization. And then there's like floating planets and everything. And for me, we haven't learned all of those, more minor details, I guess. Not that they are minor, but the more intricate details of that. But I was just like, oh man, the Skells look awesome. I love the idea of having like that ability to just kind of fly out there and roam and everything. Is really cool. Although I'm really indifferent to like mechs in general.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from with me. I don't know what mechs ever did to me.
Some like one of your friends when you were a kid like took his little Transformers and just beat the crap out of whatever toy you had. It's your GI Joes, just stomped them into the ground or whatever.
It's really weird. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It seems so subjective. I don't have a really great rational explanation for it. It's like the concept of an irrational fear, except I'm not scared of them. I'm just not interested in them.
How dare you have an opinion? I can't believe this.
An unfounded opinion that can't. It's totally groundless.
Yes.
How dare I have a preference? All right, so that's our news tidbits. we worked with those as much as we could. Now we're going to get into talking about what Nintendo games we have been playing this last week. I will just briefly address mine. I had one of my gaming buddies over, and we were determined to unlock Duck Hunt. Still hadn't done that yet because I've just been waiting for him to come over and game. And so we're just playing match after match after match. And then we unlocked Duck Hunt, and we played with like 4 Duck Hunts on the screen. Couldn't figure out what we're doing. Like, let's go back to randoms. And so we just had a bunch of random battles. And then I asked him, like, have you played Nintendo Land? And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you haven't played Nintendo Land. It totally sparks the same feeling in me that I had back in when the Wii launched. And it's like, you haven't played Wii Sports yet? You haven't tried the tennis game or the golf game? And it's just like, oh my gosh, we have to do that now. And Nintendo Land, I think back to when the Wii U launched, and it got kind of good reviews, but not glowing reviews. But man, that game has such great longevity and so much appeal. And it's just so fun to say, all right, here's the little park, Nintendo Land. All right, let's go. I'm going to have you do the Ninja Star throwing game. And now let's do the Luigi's Mansion game. And let's try this. And now we'll do the F-Zero game. Look, your face is on the screen because the camera's watching you. And oh my gosh, this is so cool. It's not super deep like the Skells, but man, is it really fun. And he loved it, just like every other friend who have said, you haven't played Nintendo Land, let's play it right now. And it just gets them so excited into the system. And I wish that I had tons of games that were like that all use the gamepad in these crazy cool ways, but Nintendo Land remains my go-to.
You would think there'd be DLC for Nintendo Land as well, since like every single person who owns a Wii U should have one because it's always basically been packed with the system. It's the weird thing. Or it should just, I don't get why it's just not a free download at this point, since they pack it in with every system. I think it's pre-downloaded, and I don't think you can get on the eShop, or you weren't able to up to like a year ago. Nintendo Land's just so weird. There are games in it that I really like. Like I like the Balloon Trip mini game and the Donkey Kong mini game. The Zelda one's cool. But then there are others that I just think are just huge piles of poop. I think the F-Zero game is just awful. I can't believe you spent time on that with your friends. If I was your friend, I'd be like, ugh, Nintendo Land.
No, well, he really liked it, but he likes racing games, so it worked out.
It's just so slow, and it doesn't. Is that you like hold it vertically, your gamepad and stuff? Ugh.
And you have to use the gamepad. You don't actually look at the TV screen.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me because the Donkey Kong
is like that too.
Yeah, that's a cool game to like pass back and forth. It's really difficult.
And I would think of the ones that I don't really like. I don't like the Octopus Dancy one, and I don't like the Yoshi's Fruit Cart one. Those are just kind of like,
oh really? I like Yoshi's Cart. Okay, the dancing one, I'm like you. I could take it or leave it.
Yeah,
I mean, it is very. I would love to see. I know that I forget what developer was on it. I know it was like Iguchi was the producer who kind of heads up the Animal Crossing. But I just picture like Nintendo's A through like Z teams being on that, and it's like, oh, we need another game. You guys aren't doing anything. You guys else. It's like, here, try this. And they just, yeah. But yeah, I'd like to see some cool stuff. An Urban Champion mini game or whatever, a little fighting game or something. You like tap on the screen or whatever.
I wonder if the people who are behind Nintendo Land, if they're the same people who are behind NES Remix. It's like they got
no,
because
NES Remix is EAD Tokyo, the Galaxy people, and someone else.
Okay.
Yeah,
I could just see, just using your analogy of a grab bag group or a group that's been chained to dealing with retro titles. It's like, all right, now that you've done this, now just go to the original games and make something of those, because it is kind of spiritually related. NES Remix and Nintendo Land, both celebrations of classic franchises.
Yeah, I think we don't see Nintendo Land DLC because Nintendo sees it as a failure because it didn't sell Wii U consoles. It hasn't been a standalone game, and I think if people were still playing, they would put out DLC or try to do something with it. But yeah, I see. Like, I just picture Miyamoto and Iwata if someone brings up Nintendo Land, like their face like getting angry, visibly upset by the mention of it.
But enough about me. What did you play in the last week, Evan?
Yeah, enough about you, Noah. I've been playing Mario Kart 8. I bought the DLC.
You did? You finally bought it after I told you to do it for months?
All right. Don't make me bring up Box Boy on here. Don't make me sick our fans on you for Box Boy.
I'm not getting Box Boy.
That's ridiculous. Anyway, yes, I did get the Mario Kart 8 DLC because Nintendo's nostalgia got me. Those sneaky, tricky people at Nintendo got me when they showed the big blue course from F-Zero with DLC Pack 2 and that music with the saxophone and everything. I was like, oh my gosh, that's worth the $12 alone. I might as well get it all. Seriously, that I know that you love Mario Kart 8's music, but the big blue like big band version of that song is just so freaking cool. And that stage is gorgeous. I mean, you're basically getting F-Zero in HD, even though it's in Mario Kart. And I know there was an F-Zero stage in the first DLC pack, which is really cool too, Mute City. So those are both awesome. And I've played through them all, even though I've only done it on 50cc. And it was worth the $12. It's really awesome.
Yay.
I forgot how gorgeous that game is. Because my feelings, like I was talking about Iwata and Miyamoto about Nintendo Land, whenever people brought up Mario Kart 8 in the past, after I kind of had my initial affair with it, my face would kind of scrunch up and I'd just be like, stupid online. There's no friend lobbies, and there still isn't, which makes me very frustrated. But just playing that game for fun and going through those stages is so gorgeous, and it's really fun to just play those DLC stages and see these characters. I love Isabelle. I'm so glad they didn't just put Villager in. They added Isabelle and stuff. So it's been very pleasant surprise going back to that game.
I'm glad to hear that. And I'm glad to hear that you're happy with your purchase, because I could understand you had some reticence or hesitation with jumping into the DLC bandwagon, because your hatred for bad online functionality is legion, as listeners and watchers of the show know. But that you got into it and reacquainted yourself with the wonders of Mario Kart 8 is very delightful to hear. And I hope that I will have some similar impressions, because I haven't had a chance to try the DLC yet. Hopefully I'll have those next week.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what you say. And for Mario Kart 2, as someone who's been on the bandwagon now since like Mario Kart 64, the single player starts to wear on you when you've played that many games, especially when you're doing like 150cc and you lose at the very end because of like a blue shell or something. It's like that happened to me. I mean, I stopped playing Mario Kart Wii single player because I barely played any of Mario Kart Wii's single player, because that game was so broken with just being rubber banding and stuff. And they've gotten better with 7 or 8. But it happened in 8 like once to me, and I thought it was like, okay, I've been doing this for close to 20 years. What's even the point? I'll play this game with friends or whatever. But I'm kind of going back to the single player and just doing it here and there, and it's really cool. So yeah, it's a gorgeous game. Goodness, I just forgot how gorgeous it is. And I agree with you too, Noah. They need to have an option where you can turn off all of the stupid, crazy item sounds and just listen to the music, because that's what I wanted on the big blue course. One little nice thing they did that I'll add is you can now, I never use my gamepad. I use my Pro controller because it's more comfortable. They now let you put the map on the actual TV screen. It's not just relegated to the gamepad screen, which is also a blessing. So that was a really nice fix.
Nice. Yeah. And have you also been playing Super Smash Brothers?
I have played some Super Smash Brothers because I played Mario Kart 8 and I was like, you know what? I have not put enough time into Smash. I mean, I've put very little time into that, and I picked it up, and that's another gorgeous, just freaking gorgeous game. And it's so much fun. I jumped online and it wasn't as smooth as it was when I played it like back on launch day, basically. But I still had some fun, and I obviously got my butt handed to me because I was super rusty. The first day I was kicking butt at like on 1v1, but I wasn't having as much luck getting back in my groove. But doing the event matches or the event scenarios and stuff is really cool. and playing with all the different people. But yeah, that's a fun game, and I'm gonna try to get into playing that here and there because I love Smash Brothers. It's crazy how much content Sakurai packs into those games. So
Who are you playing as online?
I'm pretty basic, and I do Mario or Peach. I need to branch out some. I think I might try to do some more Ness battling because I really like Kim with all of his psi powers and stuff, and he's a little faster moving and everything. Has good agility. I really like Ness, but I haven't had enough time really with the roster even to figure out who I like. I can't stand Samus. I've never liked Samus in 64 games, even though that's one of my amiibo.
Are you talking about both Samuses?
I haven't done Zero Suit Samus. I'm just talking about Power Suit Samus.
Oh,
Just so slow and
try
floaty.
Zero Suit.
Yeah.
If you like the speediness of Ness, that's what I love about Zero Suit Samus and Super Smash Brothers for You, because she's really fast, but she's also very easy to flip off the edge of the stage because she's so squirrely.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll probably be playing that here and there. And I don't know, have they added tournament option to it? Because we really should set up an NF show tournament.
Unfortunately, I don't know. I've not done any online gaming because I know I'm too noob for that.
You should do it with you and a friend can go on and do 2v2 matches, or just join a 4-player. 2 people can go online together like they can in Mario Kart 8.
That's true. We could do that. So maybe next time my buddy comes over, we'll do that.
Yeah, you should test it out. Well, I was thinking we should do it. If the tournaments aren't in Smash Brothers, we should do it in Mario Kart 8 for sure. Because we always talked about that and never did it.
Provided we can get in each other's match.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out a time or whatever.
All right, cool.
But finally, I'm still playing Elliot's Quest. I'm still plugging away, and I'd say I'm close to 3/4 through it. And I've been like on the fence, and I'm finding myself just right in the middle. I'm finding an okay game, which isn't the most descriptive, but I don't want to go too far because you'll be able to see my review in MF Magazine. But it's just too esoteric for me in a lot of ways, which I know some people would like that because it reminds them of like Simon's Quest and The Legend of Zelda 2, and it's very minimalist in telling you what to do. But the visual hints aren't that well done, and it's very frustrating. And I've just gotten to the point where I don't care. I'm not going to go around everywhere in this world to find the one the one area I can now find. I've just been going online at certain points because I'm just fed up. And I got one way that I was saying it was kind of obtuse, Noah, is the fact that you get bombs in this game. So now you know that you can bomb like these gray bricks, and it's fairly obvious for me the first time. But I got to a point where I was walking around for like 20 minutes going from area to area. And I was just like, I'm pretty sure I've been everywhere. Like, I don't know what I can do. And there was a huge divider. The land's divided, and there's like little areas you have to go through to get to the other side or whatever. And I was only on basically the southern half or the southern hemisphere of this world. And going north, there's just this huge block in your way, but it had a little crack. And so I looked online, they're like, oh, because you have bombs, you can blow that up now. And I was just like, okay, well, the game never, ever does anything to kind of hint that you can blow up a huge block with like a little bomb. They show you these little blocks, but this thing's about 4 times the size of it in a different color and and I was just like, that right there was like, that's bad game design. I don't care what anyone says. That's just confusing to me. Like, oh, it has a little crack. Well, you're going through like ruins this entire game. There's little cracks and stuff and everything. So you can hear me getting frustrated.
Yes.
But that's to me, that's not good minimalist game design. That's just, oh, we're being tricky for the sake of it. Or not realize, like, you need to, if you're not going to have tutorials or directions, or you're going to play this, I'm a very challenging game, you at least have to be fair and have to do a good job explaining how to get to these points and how to use your items and weapons. And I feel like that was a really, really crappy way to do it. So that kind of ticked me off. I still enjoy the game, but I do have some issues with it.
Well, we will stay tuned to hear your evolving or ongoing impressions. If not, read your review, which my interest has peaked even more after that previous statement of yours.
Yeah, you weren't here last week. If you remember 2 weeks ago, I talked about how I got to this like gauntlet type area where I kept dying over and over, and I didn't know if I just stunk or whatever. So I got through that, Noah, and I beat the boss. I was basically in a dungeon, but there's like a couple of levels or a couple of little tiles because it's like a old school original Legend of Zelda where you see the little tiles that you would see like in the top left screen, but it's a side scroll like Legend of Zelda 2. So it's like, I should go back to make sure I didn't miss anything important. And the shield is what I missed. And I could have just blocked these little fireballs that I was trying to dodge and jump around and dying at. And it was another thing where it was like, okay, I get that you don't want to have like, you don't want to point out where like the item is in your level. But I just totally skipped that, which I guess is good for speedrunning. But it was like, I just skipped that because I figured this was just a challenge or whatever. Like, once again, I felt like that was bad game design, that I just went through that without getting something that was obviously needed and would have saved me a lot of stress and trouble. So yeah, I've just had issues like that, but I thought you would find that funny because I was talking about that point a couple of weeks ago, and I brought that up with Lucas last week.
They really expect you to be very thorough and very determined, and
it's your game.
Imaginative as possible. Nope.
That's what I've been thinking
my
about.
game. It sounds like my game when I was 11, maybe, but not my game now.
I've thought about you when I've been playing that. I'm like, I'm sure I would love to hear you go off on a rant if you play this game.
Don't goad me. All right, with that, we are going to get into the feedback for last week's episode. And we have an email. We have a couple emails, and we also have some comments. Evan is going to be shepherding us through that. Before we get into the feedback, just as a friendly reminder, if you would like to leave comments on this show, correct my fallacious, inaccurate Xenoblade Chronicles X memory, or if you want to defend Elliot Quest against Evan's rage, you can leave comments below this video over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/nfmagazine, or you can send us an email directly to the address show@nfmagazine.com. We love hearing from you. We always look forward to it every week. So we look forward to hearing what you have to say about this week's episode. But now let's look at what happened last week. Evan.
Thank you, Noah. And I just want to add a positive thing you can send in is telling Noah to buy and play Box Boy.
Nope.
But let's get on to the emails. Our first one comes from Kian, who wrote, I'm a brand new NF subscriber and I'm loving what I'm reading so far and watching. The show rules. Thank you very much, Kian.
Thank you.
Continuing, a few weeks ago, after a long break with video games, I decided to go out on a whim and buy a Wii U. I'm loving it so far and it's reminded me why I love gaming. So I must ask, what is your favorite Wii U game? I'm a total noob to the system, have owned it a few weeks so far, so I'm looking for recommendations. I already own Super Mario 3D World and the new Smash Brothers.
Well, you already have two of Wii U's most excellent games in your collection there. If I were to, off the top of my head, if I were to name some titles, I would probably say Bayonetta 2 if you would like some challenging and campy, very campy action adventure. And Nintendo Land is an excellent collection just to show how awesome the gamepad can be. So those, and Mario Kart, of course. Those are the three that I would suggest. How about you, Evan?
To add on to it, Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze, which I love as a platformer, and Noah's sticking out his tongue in disgust. Don't listen to him. I love that game, especially if you love challenging 2D platformers.
Challenging.
Zombie U. Zombie U is really creative use of the gamepad. It's another tough game, but it's a unique experience that you won't get anywhere else. I had a blast with that. And if you don't have a 3DS or anything, you haven't played Shovel Knight, that's just a fantastic indie game to pick up on the eShop. And there's definitely plenty more, but those are the ones that are coming to the top of my head right now. So
nice.
Glad to hear you're liking it, Kian, and let us know what new games you pick up and what you're enjoying.
Yeah.
Our next email comes from Chris. There's never really much discussion about the use of Street Pass in America. With Mii Plaza becoming more of a free-to-play game, what could Nintendo do to make Street Pass more accessible to these games that sit unusable for weeks? Personally, I feel these Nintendo Zone relay points need to be literally everywhere.
I completely agree with you, Chris. I think one step further that would be better, and potentially it would mess up the design of Find Me. Yeah, probably it would mess up the design of that. No, actually, no, it wouldn't. What they need to do is not limit you to 10 people, 10 me's at a time. Because when you do actually find yourself in a position where you can actually get a lot of those at once, maybe you're at the airport or you're at a gaming or an anime convention, it can be really frustrating. It's like, all right, world around me, event around me, stop, so I can manage and go through all my 10 me's so that I can clear the gates and then get some more. I would love it if they would actually allow you to batch together groups of 10 and potentially store up to 100 me's so that you can get a whole bunch to work with, and maybe you can only access 10 at a time for all the games, and then once you're done with them or you don't want to use them, you move on to the next one. But just being stuck with only 10 at a time makes it such a time management chore. And if I lived somewhere where I was getting them all the time, maybe it wouldn't be as big of a deal, but they're so few and far between unless you're going through a relay point. So I want more me's to be saved. That's what I think would make it better. Combine that with a whole bunch of relay points and it would be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, part of me wishes Street Pass was just worked basically if you're online at the same time as your friends or something. I just feel like I never get them going out. Basically, they're available at what, McDonald's and some Best Buys right now.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who hasn't been to a McDonald's and I don't know how long, and doesn't go to Best Buy too much, that's tough for me. I don't know what, I mean, I agree with you, Chris. They just literally need to put them everywhere. Would help out a ton. But other than that, it's just it's a feature that's very Japan centric,
Mm-hmm.
and Nintendo obviously didn't think outside their country. I mean, that it took for someone from Nintendo headquarters to come to like New York and be like, why am I not getting street passes? And then for them to put in like the Nintendo Zone relays where it would finally like cash people instead of having to be there at the same time, that it took it there that long. I just think that America's a low priority for it. Or at least it was in development.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully with whatever Nintendo does next, I'm sure we'll see a continuation of Street Pass. Hopefully they find new clever ways to make it bigger in America. Let's move on to comments. That was the last of our emails. Kasaki Project, who we love, who writes in a lot and we always love, wrote, I love the Game Boy Advance Mario Kart, so I am so excited for these remake levels in the DLC pack number 2. And Neo Bowser City and Baby Park at 200cc all power items. I mean, this is going to be brutal. I've already put in 60 plus hours in Mario Kart 8. I can't imagine anything at this gen topping it for me. Plus, I have some amiibos to scan for me costumes. I want a Pac-Man amiibo now because of that helmet, but I don't think I can justify spending $13 for it. I'm glad Evan picked up the DLC. It's totally worth it.
Yeah. And I hear Kisaki Project about the Pac-Man. You can't even find the Pac-Man anywhere.
Oh, really? That Pac-Man, I like Pac-Man as a character, I just think is the dumbest. Like that amiibo, I just want to like stomp it. I just think Pac-Man is an ugly, like his updated version or whatever is so hideous. I don't know. I'm just not a bit like, I like Pac-Man the game, but like as a mascot, like he deserves to be in the trash can. Just so
wow.
Yeah, I am a Pac-Man hater. That's right.
For me, it's mech suits, and for you, it's all Pac-Man.
Yeah, just his like little arms and like boot. And like Sakurai, to be fair, Nintendo, I feel like has pulled off the best version of like modern Pac-Man that like pays homage, like the Namco games where they show him. It's just That's something else. But that Pac-Man suit is awesome with the little like Pac-Man just chomping or whatever, and it's like a digitized version. That's gorgeous. So I can respect Pac-Man. Just the 3D model Pac-Man. My goodness. Well, the other thing I was gonna say is Baby Park's awesome. That's such a fun level to play. It's so chaotic.
I was really impressed with how they took the original Baby Park and just blew it out of the water, making this like you're in this miniaturized Toyland on Wii U. It was just really, really cool. So well done.
Are you thinking?
Or wait, am I getting?
Yeah.
I'm mixing up Ribbon.
Ribbon Road is really cool.
Ribbon Road. The difference between the original Ribbon Road and the one on Wii U is just incredible because I don't think I played too much of the Mario Kart that had Ribbon Road in it. And I didn't remember it too well. I was like, how do they do this on that old system? And then I looked and I'm like, wow. The original Ribbon Road was very simplistic and you're literally driving around on wrapping paper ribbon. Whereas on Wii U, it's this completely blown out idea that has so much more going on. And Baby Park with the roller coasters going around upside down around you and everything else. It's just like, wow, I want to play a game where it's not a Mario Kart course going through it. I want to explore Baby Park of all things. I never thought I'd want to do that. It just looks so cool the way that they've designed it. So many neat things in the Mario Kart 8 DLC pack too.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what you say next week, Noah. Our next comment comes from the Seventh Experiment. As an update on my Story of Seasons gaming experience, I am happy to say that I've found a solution to the stamina fertilizer problem. Since you're playing as a farmer in the game, one of your goals is to try and grow the best quality crops as you can. It's also crucial to grow a nice assortment though, as well. What I was doing was picking which crops to grow, buying 5 bags of seeds for each type, and then trying to fertilize every single one of them every single day. The average amount of bags of fertilizer I went through was about 30 to 40. Not only was my stamina running out very quickly, I was also constantly on low supply of fertilizer. Some people suggest that instead of reducing the amount of crops you grow, you can instead limit the amount of each crop you fertilize. So for me, I would try and grow 5 3x3 plots per species with X amount of species and would try and fertilize them all. However, now I'm trying to just fertilize 2 plots per species. It greatly reduces the amount of fertilizer I need and doesn't eat up my stamina as quickly. Eventually, I will raise my crops' quality to 5 stars, which is the max quality, and fertilizer will no longer be needed. Evan, you should definitely try out a Harvest Moon game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm definitely tempted by them, and I hope that helps anyone else. It's some great Story of Seasons strategy out there for our listeners and viewers, and we know a few of you are playing. So I guess my next question would be, is Story of Seasons a good one to jump into, or should I wait for that Game Boy Advance one? I think it's Friends of Mineral Town to possibly come to Wii U. So if anyone knows that. I know we talked about this. Have you played a Harvest Moon game, Noah? I can't remember. Did you say you're...
Not recently. No, it's been quite some time.
Okay, but you have...
Yeah, the 64 one is the last one I played.
That's what people were saying. I think you missed it last week. People were saying the 64 version and the Game Boy Advance Friends of Mineral Town, I think, are two of the best ones to check out.
Nice.
So maybe we'll see one or the other, because I know Natsumi's talked about bringing more stuff to Virtual Console. Maybe that's where we should jump in. But if Story of Seasons is good, let us know, everyone. If it's good for newcomers, I should add.
Yeah.
Our final comment comes from Old School 1990s. I've been playing Elliot's Quest as well, and I find it pleasantly challenging. I played Zelda 2 when it came out, and I was able to finish the game after many, many tries. I actually called the Nintendo Power tip line to find my way through the mountains to find the hammer. That's a pretty cool story. Old School 1990s continues, Elliot's Quest does indeed remind me of that level of challenge. While it can be frustrating to die and lose progress, I think it helps you to learn from your mistakes. A lot of games today have removed the possibility of losing lives and progress to the point where you never develop the skill to truly master the game. I wanted to say Skell. If you can take cover and stand still or recover endlessly before you progress, you are not really being challenged. While I don't think all games suffer from this mechanic, I do think it is overused and is refreshing to feel pressure to actually become better at the game, rather than just muddle through it.
I just like to say, well said. And as someone who Zelda 2 was the first Zelda that I completed, and that was a bit of a challenge. That and trying to complete Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest without the internet back in the day, with just hoping that you could find a magazine or a strategy guide that's printed somewhere, finding some tips there. That was a true challenge back in the day. It was like, oh, I delighted in overly esoteric, as Evan said earlier, or complex systems. Not anymore. But hey, kudos to you for appreciating that, because Evan and I have certainly lived that to certain degrees, probably a little bit more so with me being ancient. But yes, I'm also happy to hear that there's someone out there who likes the more obscure design of Elliot's Quest. It really comes down to what it is that you're looking for, what type of flavor of game you like. And while this definitely works well for old school 1990s, and hello, his name totally ties in great to this game, doesn't it? It doesn't work so much for Evan. That is Elliot's Quest, not old school 1990s name.
Yeah, your name is not working for me. No, it's great to hear. And if any old school 1990s, definitely keep us updated as you continue your adventure and Elliot's Quest. And anyone else out there playing, we would love to hear what you think, as well as every other game. We love when you share your game opinions with us. It's one of our favorite things to do. And that is all for the feedback, Noah. So I'll hand the reins back over to you.
Thank you very much, Evan. As I mentioned at the start of this episode, this was going to be a little bit shorter than normal. We've had some oversized episodes recently, and inevitably we have to have a small one. So here we are with that one. We thank you so much for subscribing to our show, to watching us over on YouTube or listening to us on iTunes. And we love the feedback that you give to us. Please continue to send it in. And we will be back with a fresh new show for you next week. Until then, have a great week and keep on gaming. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.